Russell Martin on the brink as Ibrox legends call for his head, but the board hesitates. Will he survive the month? Nicolas Raskin left out, then brought back in as a full-blown power struggle brews behind closed doors. Hamza Igamane explains real reason for Rangers' rebellion that led to best Lille transfer. Meanwhile, Chris Sutton admits Celtic's transfer window was a disaster, handing Rangers an unexpected lifeline in the title race. And just when it all looked lost, Martin finally makes a call that'll have you cheering. Every twist, every betrayal, every bombshell, strap in. This one's explosive. Hamza Igamane. Remember the name? Hi, you do. The striker who swaggered into Ibrox full of promise, full of potential, and walked out the door like he'd just solved football. Now he's chirping away from France, claiming League One is the promised land for young talent. After refusing to come off the bench at Ibrox and then faking an injury to push his move. Let's go over this circus. The Moroccan striker forced the hand of Rangers in the most disrespectful way possible. He declared himself injured during the draw with St Mirren, despite being medically cleared. When Russell Martin tried to bring him on, he refused. A strop, not a strain. And Rangers, they didn't even bother with the pleasantries. Just 2 cold, dry sentences in his farewell. No thank you, no best wishes. Just goodbye and close the door behind you. And now, after sealing a transfer to Lille worth just over £10 million, he's out there grinning for cameras, saying it's the best possible move and that he's in the right place to develop. Scored 2 goals on his debut as Lille pumped Lorient 7-1. And yes, you'll see the headlines about it. And yes, it'll sting a bit, but let's not rewrite history here. Rangers gave him the platform. Ibrox gave him the stage. It was Rangers who brought him in and gave him the chance to shine in front of 50,000 every week, not a half-empty stand in Brittany. This wasn't about development. It wasn't about football. It was about ego, attitude, and a complete lack of respect for the shirt. You've got to ask yourself, if a player refuses to represent the badge when called upon, even in a tight match, should he have ever pulled it on in the first place? And here's the kicker. How long before he pulls the same stunt at Lille? Now that he's out the door, the rebuild continues. Desairs away, Shermity in, the squad's evolving, the noise is fading, and Russell Martin needs his signing to hit the ground running. Would you ever welcome a player like Hamza Igamane back to Ibrox if he begged to return after flopping in France? Russell Martin might finally have done something that'll make you nod in approval, because after a brutal, shambolic start to the season, he's finally made a decision that aligns with what you've been screaming from the stands. Let's not sugarcoat it. Rangers are in crisis. The worst league start in 42 years. Not a single win in the first 4 Premiership matches. Humiliated by Club Brugge in the Champions League playoffs with a 9-1 aggregate defeat. Dropped down to the Europa League. And that's before you even start on the baffling team selections, the invisible tactics, and the man management that's had more drama than a Hogmanay soap special. The knives are already out for Martin. Inside Ibrox, there's talk of legends, proper Rangers men, making it crystal clear to the board that this guy's not up to it. The hierarchy's exploring replacements, and unless there's a footballing miracle this month, Martin could be out before you finish your September whiskey. But amid all the chaos, finally a bit of clarity. Rangers have named their Europa League squad for the group stage, and 3 names are missing: Kieran Dowell, Nedim Bajrami, and Clinton Inziala. You read that right. Dowell is out. That's the same Dowell who got booed off the park, the same Dowell who was bafflingly selected over Raskin and others. He's been chopped from Europe altogether. Meanwhile, Nicolas Raskin, whose future was under threat after reported bust-ups with Martin, is in the squad, included alive and kicking. Now, that's a move you can get behind, and the support will absolutely love it. Dowell's name being read out before matches had folk groaning louder than the tannoy speakers. Raskin, on the other hand, had Ibrox bouncing last season, so if Martin's trying to win back the dressing room and it's a baby step in the right direction. On top of that, Rangers have agreed to send young Blaine McClure to Nottingham Forest. The 18-year-old midfielder's off to the English Premier League, initially on loan, with a permanent deal lined up. He never cracked the first team, but the lad's clearly shown enough to get snapped up by a top-flight English side. Fair play to him, though you'd rather see Ibrox turning those talents into first-team starters rather than loan fodder. But don't get too cozy. Martin's job is hanging by a thread. Only results will save him now, and even that might not be enough. There's a real sense that the club are just waiting for the right moment and the right replacement to pull the trigger. If Russell Martin is sacked this month, would you trust the current Rangers board to get the next managerial appointment right? Or are you just waiting for them to mess it up all over again? Chris Sutton's face must have been tripping him when he said it, but he said it all the same. Rangers are well and truly back in the title race. That's not just any pundit talking, that's Mr. Bitter himself finally admitting what you've known deep down even through this grim start. Celtic are vulnerable and the door's wide open. Now let's be honest, it's been a brutal beginning. 4 league games, 4 points, a Champions League exit so embarrassing you probably didn't even tell your mates you watched it. And Russell Martin clinging on by his fingernails. But here's the twist. The gap to Celtic is still only 6 points. Only 6. After all that chaos, mismanagement and confusion, the title race is far from over, and that's because of how badly Celtic have handled their transfer window. Sutton himself has admitted it. He's never seen Celtic do worse in a window. No replacement for Kuhn, no Adam Ida return, no spark, no ambition. No, they've stood still, and in this league, standing still is as good as moving backwards. It's handed Rangers and even Hearts a lifeline. Sutton was fuming when he said it. They've let Rangers, and if you want to include Hearts, well and truly into a title race. And you know what? He's spot on. For all the flack Russell Martin is taking, and rightly so, the reality is that 13 new signings are in the building. That's an entire team of fresh faces. The tools are there. It's just a matter of building the system to make it work. But here's the razor edge we're walking. Rangers have to start climbing. The match against Hearts on the 13th of September is already shaping up as a make-or-break affair for Martin. Lose that, and the boardroom might not wait for the next excuse. And then there's Europe with Genk, Roma, Braga, and Porto potentially standing in the way of knockout football. The margin for error is shrinking by the second. We're now at the point where every decision counts. Every lineup, every substitution, every press conference. If Chris Sutton's right and Celtic really have blown their transfer window, does Russell Martin deserve to be sacked now, or should Rangers back him until January to take advantage of their collapse? Despite late transfer window sniffs from Crystal Palace and Wolves, despite being inexplicably dropped from the squad for the Celtic match, despite whatever's brewing behind the scenes with Russell Martin, he's still here, and thank goodness for that. Because let's be real, you can't sideline a £15 million asset and call yourself a serious football club. Raskin wasn't just a standout last season, he was the engine room. The guy made everything tick. The thought of freezing him out until January just because the manager's ego can't handle a strong personality would be a footballing crime. Andy Halliday nailed it. This isn't about personal feelings, it's about common sense. If you've got a Belgian international in your squad, someone who's already proven he can dictate games in the midfield, you don't bench him, you build around him. Now, Raskin's off on international duty with Belgium, and when he comes back, there's a sit-down scheduled with Russell Martin and Kevin Thelwell, and you better believe it's make or break, because Martin's own future is on thin ice and the support isn't going to sit quietly if one of the best players at Ibrox is left to rot on the bench out of spite. And here's the irony. Martin needs Raskin more than Raskin needs Martin. One's an under-pressure manager, already facing whispers of the sack. The other is a full international with Premier League interest, locked into a contract until 2027, Martin dropping Raskin for the Celtic game, while 6 points will already separate us from the top. That's not bold, that's reckless. Rangers can't afford to lose talent and points in the same breath. And when you're trailing both Celtic and Hearts in the table after just 4 games, every bad decision is amplified. Russell Martin's stubbornness might just be his undoing, and the Raskin situation could be the final nail. If Russell Martin refuses to reinstate Nicolas Raskin after the break, would you back the player walking in January, or should the board get rid of the manager first? Comment below what you think about the news. Don't forget to leave a like on the video to help me out. I post videos every day talking about our Rangers, so if you're not subscribed, you're missing out on the latest news. See you soon.